Hi, this is Charlie Mato-Toyela with Blue Bear Flutes, and of course you can find us on bluebearflutes.com, here on YouTube under the same name, as well as just about anywhere online these days. Today I wanted to share a little bit of information with you, really something about the history of the Native American flute, as well as some of the misconceptions of the Native American flute. The information I'm going to share with you might shed some light on a few subjects for you, and it may also confuse you a little bit. And I'll get started like this. A very, very dear friend of mine and I were talking a couple of days ago, and we were talking about the changes of the history of Native American culture. Not the changes that took place in history, but the changes that are taking place today. And I don't mean things like equal rights and having new websites. I mean historical changes that have been taking place, such as changing the way that we say things and do things, and rewriting, making up new words for old words that we already have words for, and what have you. And what happens with anything, if you rewrite a history of it and then share it with everybody, eventually everybody only knows that information as the history of that particular thing. And it's something that really it brings new information into old areas where old information should be present. So, like I said, just wanted to share a little bit with you today and give you a few different perspectives that might be a little confusing. And if they are, I'm sorry about that. Uh, Really, the truth, it can be confusing sometimes, and I'll share something with you about that at the end of this video. So, one of my favorite misconceptions, and any of you that have followed us for a long time know, has to do with the number of fingerings that is on a Native American flute. There are a lot of people out there that believe traditional flutes were all six-hole flutes, or that they were all this, or they were all that. And of course, that's probably the farthest from the truth. Originally, there were a lot of six-hole flutes, mostly from about 3,000 years ago to today. And that's because historically, I think a lot of change took place at about that time in Native American history. Things were a little bit easier on us. We weren't chasing food for all of our needs, and many of the people who were gardening and farming had a little bit more time on their hands, and they really found a way to ease their pains, to ease their mind, to make their life more rich and full, and to give themselves meaning. With any culture, art and music have always come hand in hand with those type of renaissance. With that in mind, at that time in history, we see a large growth of 5 and 6 hole flutes. There's a mass outpouring of these kind of instruments. Prior to that, you find that there historically were a lot of 4 hole instruments. And also historically, this little piece here really seemed to come into play about 3,000 or so years ago. Now, today, one of the misconceptions I've heard is that two non-natives invented or created the Native American flute. Not necessarily made the instrument what it is, the idea of the instrument, but rather they made it be minor pentatonic. And I believe that this idea probably comes from the idea from the Ben Hunt Guide to Indian Arts and Crafts. It's a small little Boy Scout handbook, only about 5 by 7 or so, and maybe about a quarter of an inch thick. And in that book, which I remember from my childhood, flipping through it and looking at the pages, and everything from tanning skins to fishing and to making drums, and even some songs, some original Native American songs that I believe are probably historically accurate, are listed in this book. The last 2 pages of the book were how to make a Native American flute. And in the process of making that flute, they described how to make 2 6-hole flutes. And this is 2 pages, of course. My book is a couple hundred pages long on how to make Native American flutes, and I still feel like it falls short sometimes. I feel like I need to go back and add so much more, because there is just so much into doing this. But with regards to those 2 pages that were offered, there may have been one piece of information that was left out, and that was the correct inside diameter was not exactly on par with the historical references we have. Historically, the size of the flute was usually small. I've met a few people that say otherwise, but typically they usually say and don't have any way to reproduce this. Other than, of course, the Kenna, the quinachos, the pan flutes, which have been made into large chamber instruments. Other than that, what we call the Native American flute or North American Indian flute were typically 5-hole flutes, usually about a ½ inch or so in diameter on the inside. They were made out of natural materials that grew here and were available that were in that size. And people made them with a number of different hole configurations, everything from 4, 5, 6-hole flutes, 2-hole flutes, flutes with a number of holes that we don't even have fingers to cover, suggesting that they used them at different times. And it's just unfathomable to me, after having recreated historical Native American flutes, that two people that of course were non-native in our lifetime decided that they were supposed to be minor pentatonic. So that's kind of an unusual idea, especially when, of course, if you haven't seen it, I have a video on making the traditional 6-hole flute based on even some of the schematics that were in the Ben Hunt guide. You can go back and follow those schematics, and my video kind of shows you, it's going to turn out to be minor pentatonic if it's made correctly. So that's something to think of. One thing too that has always concerned me is that when we started making videos about how to make Native American flutes and whistles and everything else that we teach on our YouTube channel, and of course outside of YouTube, I mean, this is just one of our facets. We go to a number of locations to teach classes and have books out on the subject, and more information available on our website and through others that we share this information with today. However, one of the things that always concerned me was so many people that saved or hid their secrets, as we call them, the secrets of how to do this kind of thing. And that's what inspired me first to make the video, The Secret of Native American Flute Making, is because all these secrets are just secrets. It's so silly. One thing I would like to point out too, that many people may not really be in tune with, it depends on where you grew up and what you had to do in your life. And even though I've shared a lot of my history with all of our viewers and friends and everybody, and they know a lot about me, you just don't really know somebody until you've walked 100 miles in their moccasins, or in some cases thousands of miles in their moccasins. It's just really it's something else how people reacted to us sharing this information. But people who do share information, that sometimes is a whole other group of people. People who profess to have knowledge, they usually have ill intentions. And I've had a number of people notice that I don't have ill intentions. There's things that we have videos to teach how to make that I don't sell, for example. There are a number of things that we make, and I've actually, in our time, my wife and I have noticed a number of flute makers come up, and some of them have even kindly attributed us, even though I'll tell you it's all on them, but they've kindly attributed us for giving them their start into flute making. But recently, like I say, this gentleman asked me, I want to learn how to make really good quality flutes so that I can offer them inexpensively to our group. There's no time, there's no anything that I can give you that will make that happen. There's really not. I really wish that I could, because it's a lot of work. It really is, and we'd love to share some of that burden. As my friend always he jokes and laughs whenever he hears one of our YouTube videos and I talk about sharing the burden of learning to make Native American flutes. But that gets down to the last point that I have about the history of Native American flutes. Isn't something that you can just go point and click, or even take my word for it. Please don't take my word for it. Go and look for this history for yourself. But before you ever profess it to other people, before you ever suggest this is a good example of the history of Native American flutes, or this person seems to have it together, or whatever, before you even go there, you got to stop for a minute and you got to learn the truth. And this is something that I'm going to tell you, this is probably the most confusing part of this video, is the truth. The truth is not easily understood. It's not easily found or discovered. It's not easy to know. As a matter of fact, it's nearly impossible to know the truth. You can only perceive the truth. These aren't just fancy words. You really got to stop and think about them. Write them down. It's not easy to know the truth. People who profess that they know the truth usually are trying to take advantage of you. 99 out of 100 of those people, or groups, organizations, or anything of the sort, They profess that they know the truth. They're usually trying to take advantage of you or deceive you for some unbeknown reason. Who knows why. The truth is only something you can perceive. And what that means is you can have a glimpse of it. You can see it through the jungle, through the trees. You don't always know what the truth is. The truth sometimes is changing. I'll give you my favorite example. It's a tool that we use to teach people to play the Native American flute when we see them in person. I've only done it on one video, and maybe one day I'll make another video for it. But I think that video was how to teach others to play the Native American flute. Any of you that are fact-checking what I mean. But the truth, for example, one of my favorite truths that I like to share with people is about a drink bottle. And I always ask them, is that drink bottle half full or half empty? Immediately at home, no matter how many people are watching this, 75, 85% of you are there saying the bottle's half full. And really, I'm just prosing a question. I'm not even really truly asking you, because I already know, or at least I perceive the truth of this idea. The drink bottle, when it has any amount of liquid in it, it comes up to the halfway point. If we call it half full, it's because we perceive ourselves to be an optimist. If we call it half empty, it's usually because we're being silly or facetious. It's not because we're a true pessimist. There are so few pessimists in creation. I don't mean just humans. There are so few anything that's a pessimist. You'll never find a pessimistic turtle. They're always optimistic. You'll never find a pessimistic mosquito. Oh, I'm gonna die today. They don't look at it like that. Oh, I'm gonna smack them. But they don't think about it like that. You'll never find a pessimistic, a lot of animals in nature. Really only people can even perceive to be pessimists. And most of them really aren't. They're just renegades. They're trying to go against the grain, swim upstream, make things more difficult, really. And I'm there. I'm with you guys. If you're one of those renegades, I've done that on so many different levels. I'm doing it right now, if you didn't know. But the truth is, the drink bottle, this is the truth, the Zen truth, if you want to call it. This is the Taoist truth. This is the Native American truth. This is the Tibetan monk version of the truth. This is the godly version of the truth, and I never say that in front of people. So many people are polarized about what God is and everything. This is the truth. The bottle is always full. If you own that bottle, somebody gave it to you, and the bottle didn't have any liquid in it, it's full of air. If it's only half full of liquid, it's half full of air. That kind of truth is not something that you can know, that you can glimpse at. The scientists, the people who are, oh gosh, I can see the vision of this friend of mine that called himself very anal retentive. I don't even use that phrase, but he calls himself anal retentive, and he really is. But he told me, he said, I'm very anal retentive about these kind of things. I'm a perfectionist, and perfection is not something that we can actually be. We can try to attain it, and that's fantastic. More hats off to all of you. But the truth is not the knowledge of seeing that. You can look at the bottle and you can nitpick it to death and say it's not quite, it's evaporating at this rate. 10 seconds ago it may have been full, but right now it's missing 0.002%. Who knows? There's so many ways you can take that apart. That is still not the truth. The truth is the bottle is always full. And it's hard to understand. It's a little bit easier to perceive. And I hope you guys can see some of what I'm trying to tell you through the forest, through the trees. They say you can't see the forest for the trees. And it's such a deep saying that I do use on a daily basis, it seems. It makes my life what it is. But anyway, I hope you guys are doing well. Thank you so very much for listening to my long-winded information about the Native American flute. Notice we didn't really, I told you some bits and pieces of the history, but the true history, the truth of it that you need to perceive is out there. You just got to look for it. And don't look in one location. Don't look in two locations. Don't trust anything that you hear, anything that you see, anything anybody tells you. Trust your feelings and your belief system, whatever that may be. Follow that. It'll lead you to the right place. So anyway, best of luck to all of you making flutes and playing flutes out there. Once again, this is Charlie Mato-Toyela signing out for Blue Bear Flutes and bluebearflutes.com. We look forward to seeing you again very soon. Y'all take care.